Her bare feet hit the marble as Layla slipped into Crestline Bank, clutching a cracked ATM card like a lifeline. Suits turned, whispers cut. At the VIP desk, a smug young millionaire, Damon Hale, laughed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sweetheart, balances don't come with pity." Layla only swallowed and said, "I just want to see my balance." Then screen lit up. Damon froze. Damon's laugh died in his throat as the digits on the private terminal loaded, slowly, as if the bank itself was holding its breath. He blinked once, then twice, convinced the numbers were a glitch. But they didn't change. They only sat there, bold and undeniable, like a silent slap to his pride. His advisor leaned over his shoulder, and the man's face drained of color. A nearby teller stopped counting cash. Even the security guard, who had been watching Layla like she might steal oxygen, took a hesitant step back. Layla didn't understand what was happening. She only saw Damon's expression shift from amusement to panic, like someone who had just realized he'd mocked the wrong person. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her worn bag. She thought she had done something wrong. She thought they were about to throw her out. Is it empty?" she whispered, her voice small but steady. Damon swallowed hard. His expensive watch gleamed as his hand trembled on the mouse. "No," he said, the word catching like broken glass. "It's not empty." Behind them, murmurs spread across the lobby like wildfire. People who had been sneering a minute ago were now craning their necks, desperate to see what had turned the arrogant millionaire into a stunned statue. Elena, the kind manager who had guided Layla toward the VIP terminal, stepped closer. Her eyes flickered to the screen and widened with disbelief. Layla's balance wasn't just high. It was impossible. A fortune that looked like it belonged to a corporation. Not a girl who walked in wearing a faded hoodie and shoes held together by hope. Damon's voice lowered, suddenly respectful. "Miss Layla, do you know who opened this account?" Layla shook her head slowly. "My mom gave me the card before she passed." Her throat tightened. She said it was for emergencies. I didn't know if she meant $5 or nothing. The words hit Elena like a punch. She remembered hearing about an old account, one that hadn't been touched in years, protected by layers of legal locks. A trust connected to a late philanthropist named Gideon Rains, a man rumored to have secretly helped struggling families. But no one knew where the beneficiary was. Until now. Elena knelt beside Layla, her voice soft as warmth. "Honey, this account was meant for you. You're not here to beg. You're here to claim what was always yours." Layla's eyes filled with tears, not from greed, but from relief. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible anymore. And Damon? He was realizing that the girl he laughed at could buy this entire bank twice over. Layla's knees almost gave out when Elena whispered the truth. Her mind couldn't hold it. Couldn't fit the idea of her name attached to numbers that looked like they belonged to a king. The lobby felt like it tilted, the marble floor spinning beneath her, as every stare in the room changed. People who had looked through her a moment ago were suddenly staring, as if she were some rare treasure they'd accidentally stepped on. Damon stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor with an ugly screech. The sound snapped everyone's attention toward him. He cleared his throat, trying to recover the confidence he had worn like armor just minutes earlier. But that armor had cracked, and everyone could see it. "There must be a mistake," he said quickly, forcing a laugh that sounded weak now. "Old accounts glitch all the time." She probably... Elena's eyes hardened. "There's no glitch, Mr. Hale." Her voice carried across the room, sharp and clear, like justice spoken aloud. The same manager who had been quiet and kind before now stood tall, protective. She pressed a few buttons, pulled up legal documents tied to the account, and turned the screen slightly, just enough for Damon to see the name attached to the trust. Layla Nolan, and beneath it, the signature of Gideon Rains. Damon's lips parted. His father had once begged Gideon for a partnership, but Gideon had refused because he despised arrogance and cruelty. Gideon had built his fortune from nothing, and he never forgot the pain of being underestimated. Damon had grown up hearing his name like a legend, like a ghost billionaire who moved wealth like a storm. And now Gideon's wealth, belonged to the girl Damon had mocked. The bank went silent except for the soft buzzing of screens and the distant clicking of heels. A woman in pearls near the back covered her mouth. A man who had earlier scoffed at Layla now stared at his shoes like they were suddenly fascinating. Layla hugged her bag tighter, as if someone could snatch the truth from her hands. "Who is Gideon Rains?" she asked, her voice shaking. Elena's eyes softened again. "He was a good man," she said. "A man who believed kindness should be rewarded, even when nobody is watching." Then she looked directly at Damon. "And he believed cruelty should never be." The words weren't loud, but they cut deep. Damon's face tightened, and the heat of shame rose up his neck. He glanced around and realized everyone had seen him laugh at her. Everyone had heard his words. For the first time, his money and status didn't make him powerful. They made him small. Layla blinked rapidly, tears trembling on her lashes. "So my mom knew him?" Elena nodded. "She helped him when he was sick. She never asked for anything. And in return, he quietly protected you." Layla's breath hitched. Her mother, tired, overworked, always smiling through pain, had been someone's hero. And now, because of that kindness, Layla was no longer just a poor girl standing in a bank. She was the owner of a legacy. Damon tried to speak again, but no sound came. Because the moment karma arrived, it didn't need permission. Layla's hands shook as Elena printed the official verification papers. The crisp white pages looked unreal against Layla's dusty sleeves, like they belonged to someone else's life. The banker at the next desk stared as if Layla had walked in carrying a crown. The security guard who had been inching closer earlier now stood at attention, suddenly polite, suddenly careful, as if Layla's presence had become sacred. Damon swallowed and forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Nolan," he began, smoothing his suit like it could smooth his humiliation. I apologize for my earlier reaction. You have to understand, we get all sorts of..." Elena cut him off with a single raised hand. "No," she said calmly. "We don't get all sorts. We get people. And you treated her like she was nothing." The words hit harder than a slap because they were true, and everyone heard them. Layla stared at Damon, her eyes wet but steady. She didn't look angry. She looked tired of being treated like the world had already decided her worth. She quietly asked, "Why did you laugh at me?" Damon blinked, caught off guard. Nobody ever questioned him. Nobody ever demanded his humanity. I assumed," he muttered. Layla nodded slowly. "That's what everyone does." Elena led Layla toward a private office, away from the gawking crowd. But even behind glass walls, the whispers followed. Layla could see it in their faces. Regret, curiosity, envy, not because she had done anything wrong, but because society loved ignoring someone until it was too late. Inside the office, Elena placed a warm cup of tea in front of Layla. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," she said gently. "This trust is yours. Legally protected. No one can touch it, not even him." Layla's throat tightened. "I don't even know what to do with it." Elena leaned forward. "First, you breathe. Second, you choose your life. The life your mother wanted for you." Outside the office, Damon paced like a trapped animal. His advisors whispered urgently. One of them leaned close and said, "You know what this means, sir." Gideon's assets, his remaining shares, his holdings she might have influence over the board, even the bank's investors. Damon's face paled. In one afternoon, the girl he mocked had accidentally become someone who could destroy him with a signature. He marched toward the office door, then stopped when he saw Layla through glass, small, fragile-looking, but sitting straighter now, like a person finally remembering she mattered. And in that moment, Damon realized something terrifying. Layla didn't need to fight him to win. The truth alone had already crushed him, because the world had watched him laugh at a poor girl and then watched him bow to her wealth. And karma? Karma had made sure everyone remembered. When Layla finally stepped out of the private office, the entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Her posture had changed, still humble, still soft, but no longer shrinking. Elena walked beside her like a shield, and in her hands Layla carried a simple folder. Yet that folder held more power than every designer suit in the room combined. Damon rushed forward, forcing urgency into his voice. Miss Nolan, please, before you leave, let's talk privately. I want to make sure you receive proper guidance. These kinds of fortunes attract dangerous people. Layla looked at him calmly. Dangerous people, she repeated, her voice quiet. Damon nodded quickly. Yes, people who will take advantage of you. You'll need someone experienced, someone who understands the system. The way he said it made his intention obvious. He wasn't offering protection. He was offering a leash. Elena's eyes narrowed. She already has proper guidance, she said firmly, and she has full legal counsel arranged through the trust. Damon's jaw tightened. I'm only trying to help. Layla's gaze didn't waver. No, she said softly. You're trying to help yourself. The words were gentle, but they landed like a hammer. A few people nearby gasped. One woman looked away in shame. A man who had earlier whispered beggar now stood frozen, watching Layla speak with dignity. Damon's face reddened. Do you know who I am? He snapped before he could stop himself. My family built half the investment network in this city. Layla nodded slowly, then lifted her folder. And Gideon Rains built the other half, she replied. And he left it to me. Silence crashed down like thunder. Damon's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His advisors exchanged terrified looks, because they all understood what Damon refused to accept. Layla wasn't just rich. She was connected to Gideon's legacy, which meant influence, voting shares, and power that could shift the entire financial world. Elena stepped forward. Mr. Hale, she said loudly enough for the room to hear. As of today, this trust makes Ms. Nolan one of the largest private stakeholders in this bank. Damon stumbled back as if struck. His confidence shattered completely. A board member who had been watching from the balcony hurried down, suddenly smiling wide. Ms. Nolan, he said, almost bowing, what an honor. Please, allow us to offer you our highest services. Layla stared at him, then at the crowd who had judged her. The shift was disgusting, but also revealing. They didn't respect her because she was human. They respected her because she had money. And that's when Layla did something nobody expected. She turned to Elena and asked, Where's your employee list? Elena blinked. Excuse me? Layla's voice rose, calm but strong. I want the names of every teller, guard, and worker here who gets treated like they don't matter. I want to know who gets laughed at the way I just did. Damon's face drained of color. Because he finally understood, karma wasn't finished with him yet. Not even close. Layla stood in the center of the Grand Crest Bank, holding her folder like a quiet storm. The crowd waited for her next move, some with hope, others with fear. Damon Hale looked like he was about to choke on his own pride. He kept glancing toward the exits, as if money could buy an escape from the consequences of his own cruelty. Elena returned with the employee list, her hands trembling, not from fear of Layla, but from disbelief that someone like Layla was asking about the people nobody ever noticed. Layla scanned the pages slowly, her eyes moving over names, job titles, salaries, and complaint records. And then she looked up. Who decides who gets promoted? She asked. A senior executive stepped forward, smiling nervously. Ultimately, the management team. Layla's gaze shifted to Damon. So him. Damon forced a laugh, weak and desperate. Come on, Miss Nolan, this is a bank, not charity. Layla's voice didn't shake. And yet, you made it a place where kindness is treated like weakness. She turned to the room, speaking louder now, so every teller, every security guard, every customer could hear. I walked in today, just wanted to know if I had anything left in the world. And I was laughed at, not because I broke a rule, but because I looked poor. The silence was heavy, like everyone suddenly realized they were part of the same ugly truth. Layla pointed gently toward the security guard, who had been watching her earlier. You didn't smile. But you didn't mock me either, she said. You were just doing your job. The guard blinked, stunned. Yes, ma'am. Layla nodded. You deserve respect, too. Then she looked at Elena. And you, she said, her voice softer, filled with gratitude. You were the first person today who treated me like a human being. If you hadn't, I don't know if I would have had the courage to stay. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Layla turned back to the executives. As of today, I'm activating the clauses in Gideon Rain's trust. The trust includes governance rights and oversight responsibilities. And I will be reviewing the bank's internal conduct policies. A wave of panic rippled through Damon's team. Damon stepped forward quickly. You can't. This is ridiculous. You're just a girl. Layla held his gaze. And you're just a man who forgot that money doesn't make you better. She lifted one document from her folder. This, she said, is a formal request for an ethics review. This, she continued, raising another, is a recommendation to suspend any manager with documented discrimination complaints. Damon's face went pale as Elena quietly added, Mr. Hale has 6 complaints on record, ma'am. Gasp spread. Damon looked around wildly, searching for support. But nobody moved. Nobody defended him, because everyone knew the truth now. Layla spoke her final words with calm power. I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to stop you, because the next poor girl who walks in here deserves dignity, whether she has $1 or $1 million. Damon's knees buckled slightly. For the first time, he understood what instant karma really meant. It wasn't revenge. It was accountability. And as Layla walked out into the sunlight, no longer invisible, no longer afraid, she left behind a bank full of people who learned the lesson too late.